Welcome back, YouTube. Who's ready to make some sunken ship tiered tray decor? To begin, we're going to make a sea urchin, starting with a styrofoam ball, some paint, and some toothpicks. First, you're going to go ahead and paint that ball solid black. I put mine on a skewer, and then to let it dry, I just stick it in some old styrofoam I had. Next, I take some painter's tape and putting it down on my work surface, I attach the toothpicks. This makes it so they don't roll around and go all crazy. And, well, being the messy crafter that I am, I don't quite paint myself as much. Once those are done drying, I go ahead and flip them over and paint the other side. And when they're done drying again, I go ahead and start inserting them into the styrofoam ball. Now you're going to notice that some of the toothpicks aren't painted all the way. Don't worry about that. Once you get them inserted into the styrofoam ball, you'll be able to go back through with a little paintbrush and do any touch-ups that may need to be done. Now, what's a sunken ship without a treasure chest? Go ahead and take one of the foam dice, and you're going to put it on a scrap piece of cardboard and just measure out the sides so you know the width of your dice. Cut the edges off and try to make sure it's corrugated cardboard, because when you roll it around a paint bottle, you'll notice that the corrugation holds on to the curve. And that fits just lovely. I went ahead and took a piece of scrap cereal box board and just drew a couple circles onto it and cut 2. Once I had those cut out, I went ahead and grabbed the top of the treasure chest and just matched up the circles into that curve and cut off the bottom. That looks like a good match. Okay, so I'll grab the hot glue and run a bead down the side and insert my now half circle into the curvature of the cardboard. You may need to hold it for a moment just to make sure that the hot glue grabs and sticks. And then where you can see that corrugation, I just went ahead and took my hot glue gun and filled in the little holes on the side. Taking my spatula, I went ahead and, apparently I needed a little more hot glue, but taking my spatula, I just smoothed it over so that it leaves a solid line. You know, we're going for authenticity here. Once I had that to my liking, I went ahead, flipped it over, and began on the next side. Taking some chalk paint, Waverly, in the color ink, I'm just going to paint the die and the now lid of the treasure chest. Next, grab some popsicle sticks. These are the little actual popsicle sticks. And using the die again, I'm going to measure out the width of how long I need to cut the popsicle sticks. For this die, it took about 5 sticks per side. 4 sides, and then I went ahead, cut them off, and began gluing them to the foam die. I did this for 4 sides around, leaving the top and the bottom empty. Once the 4 sides were done, I of course know I need to have a bottom to the box. The popsicle sticks add a little bit of width and length to the box, so I have to go back in and remeasure to adjust for my sides. Unfortunately, I can only get 1 board per popsicle stick this time, but that's okay. It's only 5 popsicle sticks, and I can always use the popsicle sticks cut-offs for something else later. Once you get the bottom adhered, go ahead and trim off any excess overhang. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to take those sticks that were the excess overhang, surprise, surprise, and you're going to cover the top of the box lid. Notice that there's a little bit of overhang on one side. That'll be where we glue the lid to the treasure chest itself. Grabbing some more cereal box board, I'm going to go ahead and measure the sides of the treasure chest. And my math is not super great, guys. I apologize. It took me 4 little lines on the inch mark. I want to say that that's 4/16, so 1/4 of an inch on either side, and made little marks so I knew where to fold these little pieces of cardboard. I hope that makes sense, but you can see what I'm doing. Take your ruler and using the flat side, go ahead and bend corners. This is going to be the corner banding of the treasure chest. You notice that there were some little gaps in between. This will cover it up nice and neat. I just hot glued it into place, one side and then the other. When all 4 sides are done, I grab my Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle, and I just give the lid and the box a nice thick coat. Now, I'm going to go ahead and antique this, so I'll use some hazelnut and some mineral as well, dry brushing those over the dry truffle colored chalk paint. When the box is painted and I think it's good and pretty, I'm going to go ahead, grab my lid, and do the same. Taking some more chalk paint in the ink color, I'm going to paint the banding of the box. This will just give it a little definition, and I think it looks really pretty good. Make sure to get the insides too. Now I'm going to flood the top of the treasure chest, the final exposed piece of the die, with hot glue. Set that aside to dry. And go ahead and grab some more of those off-cut popsicle sticks. I've got a little rounded top and just a little square piece. Take some paint in the gold color, paint them up, let them dry, and since I don't have a tiny paintbrush, I have an old dead fine tip Sharpie. I dip that into black and I am coloring in the little locking mechanism. On the bottom part, I just grab the end of my paintbrush and make that as well. Put the little half moon piece on the treasure chest lid and put the little square piece on the front of the box. Taking some regular old white school glue, I'm going to pour that over the now dry hot glue and spread it all around. This is where the sparkly part happens. I have some glitter from Walmart, and choosing the silver and gold, I'm just going to give a generous sprinkling over the top. Oh, so pretty. I just tip the top off just to make sure anything extra comes out. Then, what's a treasure chest without some gemstones? I've got pearls and gemstone stickers from the Dollar Tree. I just hot glue them into place, and finally I take some hairspray and spray over the top to seal in the glitter. No glitter shedding. Yay! Take your hot glue, line that back overhang that we mentioned earlier, and go ahead and press it into place. I took a little more hot glue and just ran it along the back to give it a little more stability. If your hand's kind of shaky, you may want to touch up your paint. Next, I took a couple, or actually I just took one toothpick and cut it in half, then painted it black. This is going to prop up the lid of the treasure chest so over time it doesn't start to sink down. And by over time, I mean I live in a really hot, humid climate, and it tends to make my hot glue melt. So I just took the toothpicks, stuck it in the top of the box, and mushed it down into the hot glue or the dice. What kind of ship would it be if it didn't have a steering wheel? Am I right? Okay, so we've got some Jenga blocks here, and we're going to get some little mini clothespins, take them apart, and then glue the Jenga blocks together in a T shape using hot glue and wood glue. Now, you know that jot glue you can get from the Dollar Tree? It's got a little cap inside to keep the glue from drying out. We're going to use that as the center to put the spokes of the steering wheel out from. So I take a little bit of hot glue on the bottom and glue the first half of a clothespin on. Flip it over and glue the second half, making sure to glue the ends. And you're going to want to put it back to back, the clothespins back to back, so that it gives a nice little hand hold for the steering wheel. I typically will go west, east, north, then south for my placement, and then fill in all the side pieces. Then I'll take some hot glue and just run it around the middle to reinforce those clothespins and stick a washer on top. Now, that little red thing over there, that's the top of a milk bottle ring. I find that that's a perfect addition for the little steering wheel. It's so cute. And then just take a little bit of hot glue on the inside and outside of the milk ring to make sure it stays in place. Since we're all color coordinated, I'm taking some truffle paint and painting the steering wheel and steering wheel post. Then I will dry brush some hazelnut and mineral colored chalk paint to give it the aged effect. I'll take some gold paint next, and I'm going to go ahead and paint out the washer. You may need a couple coats. I think mine took about 3. And I tried to leave the hot glue alone in the center because I'm going to take a Dollar Tree gemstone, paint it gold, and adhere it to the center of the steering wheel. Oh, and don't forget to paint the milk ring gold as well. Taking some pieces of twine, I'm going to hot glue them onto the little divots of the steering wheel. All the pictures I looked at online seem to have the steering wheel spokes wrapped, so I think that works nicely. Hot glue that into place, then grab a pair of scissors after the glue dries and snip that off. Once adhered, I took a lighter and burned off all the little hairy things. I took a little more twine and wrapped it around the top of the steering wheel column as well. There's that little gemstone I was telling you about, and glue that right into the center. This will also help keep your washer in place. And finally, take some hot glue, run it around the back of your steering wheel, and put it into place on the steering wheel column. Finally, let's make a pirate. You'll see here that I've got an old chopstick. I've used it for painting stuff out. I'm just going to measure from his knee to his ankle and cut that. These miter shears are a game changer. Guys, if you can afford them, grab them. They're amazing for cutting through wood. I'm going to go ahead and take some truffle paint, chalk paint by Waverly, of course, and again, and paint the little peg out. Next, I'm going to find one of those gemstones that matches about the size of the pirate eye. If you are a fan of Goonies, you will get the reference. And go ahead and place a little bit of hot glue in his eye socket and then give him a pretty sparkly eye. Next, I take some hot glue, sorry, a little bit out of frame there, and run it around the bottom of his knee and place that little peg in there. Once it cools just a bit, but still malleable, I like to pinch the glue around just to give it something to hold on and then paint out the join. Well, that does it for me, crafters. I hope you enjoyed today's mini sunken ship tiered tray decor. Come back soon.